It's raining. We've got some really weird colours in the sky today. It's been a while since the fridge has been this bare. Could do with a bit of a clean as well. Not been shopping for about 2 weeks. Extended the washing line to the shed. Just giving me a bit more space. These nice big daisies come up now. Red hot pokers. They've come up too. And so have a bunch of weeds and things. The fridge is a little bit cleaner and a bit better stocked. There's a little working from home setup I managed to bodge up for a week or so. Just put the this little table leaf on the back of the top of the fire and just set that up there. Bit of a bodge, but it did the job. And then the other desk and the printers, and no desk is complete without a bunch of bananas and a CPU graveyard. Hey up with it. Hey up, mate. And my little friend out in his run, tucking into his grub. Plants need watering again. There's a bunch of stuff coming up. I've not been out here and done anything with it. And look how much this stuff's grown. And this is what it does, as you can see it tangles itself around stuff and throttles it. I've been expecting some more of this to come up, but at least now I can see where it is and dig it out. Apparently there's some more over here. Yeah, in that very back corner. Yeah, the weeds have gone absolutely nuts over the last few weeks. But I've done nothing down here, not been very well, and then this weekend I've got other things on the go. We've got a poppy here as well. Loads of poppies. Well, one poppy with lots of flowers. Oh no, there's more than one. I did collect a load of seeds one year to put down, but never did. Yeah. I think they're poppies. And there's these pink things here. That's actually a weed, but I really like them. I call them like Jack and the Beanstalk plants. Jack and the Beanstalk. Yeah, the grass is going nuts. It's going to seed. Yeah. See, the net this side's fine for keeping the cats out, but I've noticed this side there's well, this has come away again, it's been ripped up. It could be this, it's like a nylon twine, but well, it's supposed to be, but I don't know what the hell it's made of, but just pull it apart. Just disintegrates. I thought I'd repaired that, but maybe it's a different bit I repaired. But there's a few holes appearing. Yeah, another big one there. And they're all down this side on the bottom. I don't know if it's squirrels or cats. I don't know if there's been any activity in the bird box. Not really checked up on it since the last time. I really like these pink sprays of flower at this time of night because they look like little fireworks shows. All these like purple daisy looking things have come out. I've got no idea what they're called. And red hot pokers, yellow ones, and then this mass of snapdragons, which was just one little snapdragon that came up in a pot and it got planted, and now it's turned into this, I think. Unless these were planted from somewhere else, I can't remember. So I'm back up in the project room again, struggling to get anywhere and achieve things as usual. Nothing new there. I must have come up here about 4, maybe 5 times today, and every single time I've come up here I've forgotten something and had to go back downstairs again. And sometimes I've gone back downstairs to get the thing I've forgotten and then come back up and still not got the thing I should have had. It's just been one of them days. Even I'm trying to record some footage here, and even this thing's broke. Luckily I noticed it. There's like a ring on this that you tighten up and it locks this on. Good job I noticed, because if I hadn't, that could fall off and the camera would have fallen with it. And I'm pretty sure I've got at least another 1, if not 2 of these gooseneck things that I bought, and I'm pretty sure there's also one that someone threw out that I picked up, and they might have these on them, but I cannot find them anywhere. It's always the same. Since the last vlog was uploaded, I think it's been about 2.5 weeks. Some things have been going on and off, not really sure. I don't know, it's all, as it always does, it's sort of merged into one blob of time that doesn't really seem to have a start and end in my head. But I think the last time I uploaded a vlog, I think it was that week. The weather was really weird one night, and I'll try and put the footage up for that now. And yeah, I didn't realise at the time, but apparently there was a lot of dust in the atmosphere. I don't know if it's like when it comes from the Sahara or not, but that sort of week, I think it was around that time, that week I wasn't very well, and then ended up off work, and then I had a week working from home, and I noticed the car was a bit of a state when I went to get in it, when I was going back to work. I think I was at home, I don't know, I was in the house for 10 days or something, I don't know, quite a while, maybe longer. No, it would have been more than that. Anyway, whatever. I just assumed the car was a state because it'd just been sat on the drive, but apparently it could have been all this dust and crap that was in the atmosphere. Yeah, not a lot else gone on. Got my little friend out in the garden. Because I've been at home, he's been able to go out on the grass and in his run. I don't know what else I've recorded, but I don't think there's been a lot. Certainly not much of any real interest. Not that even this is of any real interest. So I'm trying to do this A600 thing here, and I've been experimenting with these pH papers. So I've been trying to finish the video on that, and then hopefully be able to get on with finishing off the decapping and do some recapping. Decapping's not gone particularly well because I've screwed up and managed to lift some pads, so one of them definitely is my fault, and I think there's some damage to some of the others, again my fault. Shouldn't do things when I'm not in the right frame of mind. And I think there's a pad loose here on one of these caps, but that could be due to capacitor leakage rather than, I wasn't mistreating that one, so not sure whether that's me or something else. But yeah, I've got this this sort of little experiment to do here, so I'm gonna get on with that now and come back to this crap another day. Well, that's that one done. Thankfully I didn't get my cup of tea mixed up with me deionised water, which is which was a positive thing, or didn't use my cup of tea to clean the board and whatnot. So yeah, I'm going to probably try and get this one edited up tonight, even though it's stupidly late already, and then I can get it rendering and try and get it uploaded tomorrow, because I'm really not getting many videos out, and it's quite frustrating. And I'd like to get a video out at once a week minimum, really, which it shouldn't be that hard for me, but again, it's the old motivational crap, isn't it? So yeah, the most impressive thing actually about this video I've done, for me, is that I've managed not to smash this piece of glass. Well, it's a weekend again. This is becoming quite a regular occurrence with this Linux system. Keeps crashing and hanging. I think it's probably more a fault with the hardware than a software related issue. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm absolutely sick and tired of it. I've had more crashes on this one Linux PC than I've had on all the Windows PCs combined at work. So it's getting to the point that something's going to have to be done. It's running really slow. I don't know if it's a thermal issue or what the hell's going on, but I'm absolutely sick of it. So I'm probably going to have to set up another system or something and then investigate this. It's getting quite tiring. There's a bunch of shit here. That's a huge crack. Like a rain. Oh, that's a bit of an improvement. It's a start. Yeah, I've not touched that. This is a lot better. Grass is done, that's cleared. Seems a shame to let the efforts go back to waste. This bit's always a mess. But this is really annoying. There's a pine tree and you end up with all this stuff. It's like there's a bird nest down here when there isn't. And it always collects up here behind the back of the shed, which is a pain in the arse. Hopefully at some point the rest of that branch is going to get chopped off. Yeah, it collects everywhere. No, it's not too difficult to get it up. So it's about the middle of August now. I think the last vlog entries I did were July. And I think there were I don't even remember what I've done. I've not edited any footage yet or anything. It's not really been to be honest, I think the last 6 weeks to 2 months just not really been the best, so I've not really felt like doing much, and that's why the videos have been almost non-existent. So yeah, I bought some new screens for this sort of little setup here, this mess, and they've been in the boxes for 2 weeks now. I've not touched them. They could have had cracks in them and been smashed up, so I figured I'd better take them out and have a look. It's a bit blasted out here on the white. These are three. Well, there is three. I've only got 2 of them set up. These are my old monitors. They're HP LP2465, so it's a 24-inch wide widescreen. But these are, as are these new screens, these are 16:10 rather than 16:9 aspect ratio, which I prefer. That's why these new screens probably cost a little bit more than what I could have otherwise spent. But I do prefer that aspect ratio. It's only a small difference, but I just feel that working on these screens is a lot nicer. But there's a few reasons I've chosen to get rid of these. They are getting on, and they've got CFL tube lighting for the backlight, and they do eventually wear down. You used to be able to get them. I remember seeing them on eBay, and I nearly sort of looked into buying them, but you can change them, and it's a bit of a job to do it, I think. But I even considered, I wonder if you could upgrade these to LED backlighting somehow. But it's a lot of hassle, and the other thing with these is they get quite hot, and they draw a fair bit more power. Now obviously a monitor's not going to be the biggest power drawer in the house, and although at the moment any amount of power draw in the house is an issue because of the cost of electricity and fuel and everything at the moment, but I've had these on a meter, and well, I've got a couple of meters here that I bought recently that I've been experimenting with. Now these the HP screens, yeah, the desk is a mess as well. The HP screens were drawing about 48, 49 watts when they were on. I think they draw about 5 watts in standby, which is when the little orange light's on, which it's not at the minute. And at the moment they're in, that's a completely, it's still in a standby mode, but it's a very low standby that won't even register on the watt meter. But when it's in the standby with the light on, then it's about 5 watts on this. When it's running, as I say, it's 48, 49 watts. At the minute you can see we've got 17 and a half watts, so let's say 18 watts, and that's one of these new screens, and that's switched on. So that is actually drawing just over a third of the power of one of these HP screens. So in effect I can run my full triple monitor setup for the same amount of power as one of these HPs, which, now you've got 3 of them running, that's 150 watts you're burning away. These were actually, when I first plugged them in, running at about 15-16 watts, and that's because they were running at 60 hertz. I switched them to 75, and say it's only gone up about 2 watts, if that, just to get that extra, well, an extra 25% on the refresh rate. So that's not bad going, really. And when these are in standby with the light on, it doesn't register on here. If they're off completely, obviously it's not going to register either, so the standby power is much better on these as well. The other thing I noticed, particularly while it's been warm, the amount of heat that these HPs kick out is absolutely ridiculous. You can put your hand on the screen itself and it does feel really, really warm, and these will undoubtedly kick out a lot less heat than the HP does. So yeah, I've been quite pleased with these so far. I mean, I'm not using these for gaming, but the extra 15 hertz is probably going to be quite good. It'd be nice to have that, so if I do play games on them, there's a little bit of an improvement. Having the time for that would be nice. I mean, this desk is an absolute shit show of just random stuff everywhere. I mean, high voltage fly swatter on the top of a PC, probably not a good idea, although sometimes, yeah, it'd be tempting to just swat the PC and save myself the hassle, really. This is something else I've been working on. I was going to do a video on just a little low power PC to watch videos and YouTube and just web browsing, that kind of thing, but the idea was for it to be low power and silent, but yeah, that one's come to a halt. And while I'm not really doing a review on these screens, I have to say I do like these bases. Well, what I specifically like is this swivel, because you can have the base straight on your desk or whatever angle you want, and then this will swivel. I don't know if it'll swivel all the way around. It might do, I've not tried that, but it'll swivel a lot more than the HP stands will. They had a limit how much they could turn, which is why this one's sat at an angle, whereas I'd probably prefer to have it straight. So that's a nice little bonus. The other thing I was going to say, which I forgot, when I first set these up, I had to double check, because I was convinced these screens weren't as wide as the HPs, and it's because these have got a very narrow, you can see the difference here, very narrow, well, the bezel's actually a few millimeters, and then there's a little bit of the screen that's got like a dark edge all the way around, whereas these, you've got this beveled bit and then this stonking great lump of plastic, so you get a much smaller join between the screens, or seam, not really joined. There's an argument here between, have these processors been sat around on this monitor stand too long, or is this room too dusty? I'm going to just say yes. Oh, there we go. 3 monitors now. This this all needs clearing up and sorting out anyway, this desk, so it's a good kick to do that. It seems a bit wrong, but I've got this on the VGA at the moment, this one, because it's connected to an old laptop that I use for Windows stuff. It needs switching out, but like everything else, doesn't seem to get done. I'm definitely liking these bases. They're not quite as big as well as the others, so you can place them and they're not hanging over anywhere or anything. This one is a little bit at the back, but that's just so I can get it further towards the wall. Yeah, I'm quite pleased with them. I did quite well with these on price as well. I mean, they're not the cheapest of screens, but eBuyer was selling them on eBay at the same price to sell them out on their store, which I always find a bit weird, because I think, well, they must lose out on eBay with some kind of business fees. But then again, perhaps the exposure gives them more sales and it's worth it. But eBay had got one of these things on which they do every now and again, where you can get a percentage off your order. And because I ordered 3 of these screens, which was actually all they got listed, I had all 3, I got 75 quid off in total, so each screen was 25 quid less than the cheapest price I could find them at, so it was worth doing the switch. All I've got to do now is make the effort to get rid of the other ones. I think in part because this is perhaps a slightly more, I don't know if I'd go as far as say premium product, but that heading towards that, you get all the guff with it, so that's all recycling, which seems a shame. But I've kept boxes and boxes of manuals and things before, and in the end I just had a massive clear out. Of course then I wanted them after I'd thrown them away, but that's how it always goes. It somewhat baffles me how these have given an energy rating of G as well, because they're a lot less power than the old ones. So what would the old ones be? Q, Z? I don't know. Well, that was disconcerting. There's just a very loud pop in here, and this happened earlier, and I actually wondered if it was a battery. I got a knackered battery on here, and that's since been evicted outside the house. And I wondered if it was that, because it all puffed up, but it still seemed to be pressurised. You know, when they puff up like a pillow. I've just heard the noise again, and this had happened before these monitors were in, so it's not them. And there was like a sulphur smell. And I can smell it again. And it was this area. Alright, back in a sec. I'm really quite baffled with this. It doesn't help that everything's a shit mess. The smell's round here again, and that's where it was before. I thought maybe PC power supply. The PC is still on. Not smelling anything there. There's not a lot that's powered up it. There's some switches down there, of which only one's on. It's the sort of, I mean, I don't know, I thought capacitors smelled of fish, but oh yeah, it's quite strong over here. This new fan, but that's not on. Nope, let's turn that off. I was just gonna it's definitely stronger down here. Let's get this out of the way. Graphics card dumped out down there, another waste of time. What the hell's that? There's a couple of power supplies here that are on for some hard drives. The only thing that's powered down here There's a laptop power supply. That's not hot. It doesn't smell. It's not swollen. There's no smell there. I am quite baffled. The smell's kind of dissipated now, so I can't really smell it. I mean, if it's the PC, then it's obviously not good. I'll shut the PC down, I think, just as a precautionary measure. Yep, so much for Linux being better than Windows and all that bollocks. Well, in a lot of ways it is, but in a lot of ways it's just a different shade of the same shit. It's an operating system and it doesn't always work properly. Won't shut down. No idea why. I'll let that run down and hopefully that will shut it off. The only other thing that's plugged in here is this power supply, unless it's something to do with that. The other thought that's in my mind is some of these power strips I've got will have surge protecting capacitors and bits in them, so it's possible one of those has blown up, or two, or blowing up. Well, there you go, that worked. Kill the X server and then do a shutdown, or at least it's trying now anyway. It's very bloody trying. Can you guess how the Linux shutdown process is going? Well, the rest of the night's gone to pot then, and this is really another good example of why you shouldn't live in a clusterfuck, because then when things go wrong you're really stuffed. I've somehow got to find somewhere to put all this crap and drag all of this out and figure out what's going on now, because there's clearly something happening and I don't want something to go wrong and then end up with a fire, so I'm going to have a look. This is the battery I was talking about earlier, and you can see, I probably can't actually because the camera's being crap, but it's like a little pillowcase. It's all puffed up. I actually shorted the wires together and threw it outside to try and discharge it. It's out of a little MP3 player. It wasn't even a year old, and I could have gotten a refund, I suppose, or a replacement, but I just couldn't be arsed with it, to be honest with you. So I thought maybe it was something to do with that, but that can go back outside in a minute. Yeah, either way I'm going to have to get all this out, because unfortunately the surge protectors are, or the power strips, there's a big filter thing under here. I've got these blue air filters I bought second hand, I might add, because they're so hideously expensive. There's a couple of rows of surge protected doodads on the back of this desk stand support end, whatever you want to call it. They're quite old, so it's possible it could be something to do with them. I'm kind of hoping it is, or failing that, if it's a PC power supply, it's a PC power supply. Maybe I should look at that first before I start ripping this lot apart. Although in honesty, it's been a while again since this has all been pulled out and cleaned, so it's just not a job I really wanted to be doing now when the rest of the place is in such a mess. Yeah, lighting's not the best in here, unfortunately. Now this PC is a bit of a, well, it's just another shit show to go with the rest of the shit show. It's just a sideline shit show rather than the main event shit show. But this has been running really badly, and it's happened before, and I upgraded the processor and it was fine again, and now it seems to be running badly again. It's a bit dusty, but I've dusted it out before and it was still the same. So I don't know whether that was a contact issue with the processor or what it is, but it hasn't been running right. Can't smell anything on the PSU, but I'm going to take it out and have a look. May as well use this as a bench, because guess what? The bench is a shit show as well. In case you hadn't guessed, it's all just one big shit show. Well, this is a weird ass design, you probably can't see much in here. But there's like a bracket holding the PSU at the back there. I don't remember doing that. Well, it's not the screw because I've took that out. I've got no idea how this is supposed to come out, this power supply. You know, do you ever get those days where you're trying to do something and it's like every single thing conspires against you? And one problem just leads to another, which leads to another. I haven't got a clue how that comes out. I can see another little screw, and I have this horrible feeling that this case, being as it's a cheap ass thing that I got from an old job that's going to be thrown out and probably should have been thrown out, I have a horrible feeling you have to take the motherboard out to get that bracket out to release the power supply. It might actually be easier to just rip the desk out and check the bloody surge protectors first. Oh, that's all the bits and pieces of crap. A box of random crap there. Problem is, this is even in the start of it because there's all this crap under here, and I'm pretty sure one or more of these are full of things as well, so they're going to be heavy. It's all got to be moved. Going to need to hoover. This is the stand built just purely just to get a swag. And it's got this section here which was for the Amiga 500, so the A500 would sit in this section, Action Replay would sit up against that with a splitter, and then I'd have the A590 hard drive in this section here. But I figured I might as well just use it on my desk as well. I did used to have a stand like this, but unfortunately that's broken. I was going to repair it, but it's just not worth trying to fix it. Yeah, there's plenty of dust on it. Not healthy. Yeah, so that desk just sits, or that top just sits on these two big lumps at the end here, and then there's this thing. This desk was built when I used to live somewhere else. No idea what that was. It just covers any cables and things between the two desks. And then this blue air filter thing came at some point after and was added to that, I think. Or maybe I can't remember, maybe I built that specifically for that actually. It was a very long time ago. But you can see down here now I've got switches and stuff and mounted this board to the wall. I don't know if I did a video on that, or I don't know, perhaps I didn't. Yeah, there's a load of crap down there then. All the hard drives from the Chia mining, which I've gradually been using for actual useful data. And well, that corner needs a good clear up as well. So a bit earlier I made a remark about how one thing leads to another, one job creates another one and another problem. I want to get this amp out of the way. So that's fed through the back power. There's a hole at the back here. There's an extension lead covering the hole, so the plug now won't go through, so I've got to take that off to do that, to get rid of that. I was wondering where the side panel to that big case was. It's here. It's being used as a tray underneath here. I'll whip these sockets out. I've just realised as well there's a 4-way down here that I was going to swap out for a switched one. Now would be a good time to do that. Look at the lines of dust where stuff's been. It's ridiculous. A bit clearer. So you can see I've got a bunch of cables neatly tied there to go to here. This was put on the wall, just this board, just to screw these onto. This one's never been used, but it's been powered up all this time. So it's a bit pointless, so I'm gonna remove them both for now, just to get them out of the way. But that one, the gigabit one's not being used, so it's kind of pointless. He says. So the screws are a bit misaligned on that one. Yeah, it looks like this one was slid on sideways because I've got two brackets here, and the brackets are just to stop this sliding on these keyhole slots on the back. And maybe it does go up as well as down then. Just want to get everything out of the way. Reevaluate things, run the hoover down here. The screwdriver's not the right sort. Oh, that's weird. They're diagonally fitted. How strange. Whatever. Out of the way. I think that's an old transformer style one, so I might be able to find a better power adapter that's not so hungry and heat generating as the old transformer types. But these are what I was suspecting might be problematic. I know the lights have gone out on one of them. These are going to be a bit of a pain in the arse to work on. Of course I need to clear this lot out really as well. Get that dusted because there's loads of crap down the side of these. There's a load of power plugs under here. Maybe I have done a video on this before. They're all under there neatly out of the way. It worked out quite well, this little corner. Might put up a picture of what it used to look like when it was first set up. Well, things are looking a lot better. I've still got to wipe a lot of the stuff down that I've took down because it's absolutely covered in dust. It's a good opportunity to look at this and do it. I've cleared all these shelves down. Apart from these here, I can't really clear them because you perhaps see they're all sort of fairly neatly tied in the corners, and they go underneath this big heavy duty shelf that I put here, which was put in for the printers. Yeah, I used to have a thing for lava lamps. I used to have loads more than this, probably, I say loads, probably had another 4, maybe 5 of these. There's the Mathmos ones I used to like, the jet lamps. I still do like them. I'd quite like an orange one. I've got a blue one upstairs in the project room where the bench is. Oh, I keep sneezing at the minute. All this dust I've disturbed. This was bought from Woolworths when it used to be around, although at that point it was the Big W and they were selling them off fairly cheap, and I've always wanted one of these. I remember my dad used to have a little book that came with all these gadgets and things in, and there'd be little UV lights and UV security marker pens, and back then they were really expensive because they were sort of a new technology, a new thing. I always wanted one of these. So there used to be little tiny ones and they were really expensive. I think that was like 15 quid or something ridiculous. Yeah, don't really have these things. I ought to put them on a bit more. You just sort of forget and they just become part of the scenery really. So under here we've got sort of a power feed that goes up to this 4-way here, and then off of that it branches off. There's a remote socket here, and that's connected up there to a lamp with a very low power, low wattage bulb in it, just for sort of a bit of very low background light. And there's another one on the other side of the room. They're both tied onto the same code, so to speak. So they are both operated at the same time from the same button. This goes off to, I think, on the side of the shelf here, to a triple socket which I've had since I was a kid. My mum bought that as a Christmas present. That's now ended up mounted under here. It's been in a loft at a house I lived at for a bit as well. But there's 3 switches here, and these are reachable from this sort of here like this. You can put your hand under. You can put your hand under there and operate them, turn things on and off. So this first one here, that then goes off to this 6-way under here, and you see there's 5 more remote control sockets, and you see, not counting the lamp on the right hand side because that's already got its own remote control, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lights, so they are all controllable from the remote socket, so that saves having to mess about trying to get at the switches on the lamps. They're controllable off that, but they can all be switched on and off from this master switch here, because I like the idea of being able to switch that off, and then sometimes you get stray remote signals from other other houses near, but I've had it with lights before and other things where they'll come on and off on their own. It's because someone else has got a similar thing on the same code, so that allows me to completely kill that altogether. The second one goes to that double socket there, and that just basically powers up the printers. So I rarely use the printers. When I need them, I need them, but when I don't, I don't. So it's nice to have them completely powered off. No standby usage getting used. They're just off. And oh, you see they've got quite short power leads I've made for them. And they've both got a USB and Ethernet connection. And that's, so I've got the option of using either. And both these USBs go to a hub, which we'll perhaps look at in a minute. There's also these single sockets here. Now these are actually for the lights. They're just down here because it's the only place where there's any space to put them out of the way. So they're connected underneath here to those remote sockets, and then these wires go up to the lamps. So they're just sort of out the way there as best they can be. So it looks quite complicated, but it's pretty simple really. And then here we've got networking. Obviously 2 of these are for the printer. There'll be an uplink. There's one for the PC here. And oh yes, I nearly forgot. There's a Wi-Fi as well, so that'll be the other one. And that's what this third one is here. I very rarely use the Wi-Fi, to be honest. Although I think at the moment the Wi-Fi is enabled on my router. But I didn't used to have a router with the Wi-Fi on, so I used to use a separate Wi-Fi, which is there. Wi-Fi access point. And most of the time I didn't need it. I do need it more often now. So that can be turned on and off. I'm one of these awkward people that prefer wires, because wires just generally work or don't work. There's no halfway in between and a lot of head scratching going with it. Now this boxed in section, this is just a crude mess. House cable like this. Some pipes there from an old back boiler based system, and then in the bottom there's just a bunch of wires out of the way, just tucked out of the way, take up some of the slack. I think that's the uplink, and then down there you might be able to just see a little USB hub, and then there's a wire from that comes out here. It's not particularly long, and then I can plug that into whatever. So I've also got a USB option to hook the printers up if need be. Might usually have to put an extension lead on the end of that. And again, this is all just tied in and out of the way. The floor was really drafty down here, so I just used up some sealant that I had just to block it up. I know it's a mess, but at some point one day, or maybe never, all the floor will now get sorted in this room anyway. So what I was looking at doing is replacing the four-way that's in here with a switched one, which is this one that goes across there. So I'm just going to get that out and then see if I can find the replacement that's meant to be going in there. Minor problem trying to get across to the other side of the room. That out. I'm going to have to get the other lead out when I can get at it, but we've got a four-way there. I did think about putting a six-way on, but the problem is they're so big and I want something a bit smaller out of the way. I don't know. Should I go for a 6? It might be useful. Now I've just put this in. This has got window packers in to stop these rattling around. Oh, I've changed it for the 6-way. Nearly guillotined my own fingers in the process because his board just dropped down because I've got it slid up. Oh, let's put it back together now. Well, it's still really hot today. Of course I still haven't took these off yet. I've got to take these off and open them to have a look what's going on inside. Just check they're alright. I suppose what I could do now the dust is mostly gone is put a fan on so I'm not quite so bloody hot working here. I couldn't really do that before. Well, A, because I didn't think to do it because I'm an idiot, and secondly because the dust would have gone everywhere anyway, so it would have been a bad idea. I need to find a better PSU for these switches, although I'm just going to leave that gigabit one off. I think that's a 10100. I don't think it's a gigabit. It's an old one. Yeah, 10100. Doesn't need to be any faster. Internet wise, I think my max is out at 60, and I don't really have anything that needs fast communication with other PCs. It's only the printer that's on the network. If I ever get a file server set up, which never seems to be something that's ever going to happen, then I'm probably going to put a separate network on for that anyway, which is why the gigabit was there but never got used. So these desk bases and all this are years old now. I mean, these have been, well, these have been built since I've been in the house 10 years, and the place I was at before that 8 or 9 years, and I built them during the first year I think that I was there. These may have got bought the second year, so it could be like 16, 17 years old now. Look at that dust down there. And this base was built with like shelf bracket rails, as you can see there. There's no shelves in here at the minute. I think the shelves are in the shed somewhere. This used to have a hi-fi separate system in it, so I adjusted the shelves to fit that, but I made them permanently adjustable rather than just fixing them in. Permanently adjustable, that's a contradiction in terms. I made them adjustable so that if things changed, which they did, then obviously they could be switched around to suit the new requirements, rather than a permanent shelf that may not suit the requirements as things change. There's also a hole in the top, and there's a hole in the top of the other one, and there was a channel in the underside of the top, and the idea was to be able to run any cables through there as well, like for stereo connectivity, things like that. Perhaps run audio cables there and all the power here. But I don't think that ever got used. I can't remember. Maybe it did at some point. So long ago. Yeah, so this was quite a neat idea to put these on the back. Now there's 6 on there. I mean, a less chunky thing than this, you'd get maybe 7. And at the time as well, this had got all like telephone surge and network surge and all kinds of stuff. I think I even have TV surge protection on the ends. Yeah. So I did used to use all of that, but obviously now I don't. They're just power strips, and well, they still work, so why not use them? So the mounting of these is pretty simple. It's just some thick plastic stuff that's been glued on with some contact adhesive, and just 4 screws on each of them onto the back of here. There used to be some cable clips on here, you know, the sort that you'd nail on to hold a cable in place, but I put screws through them. I think they all split, so now I've just got these saddle clips and these oversized cable ties for whatever reason. I mean, it works. So also, just going back to the actual base, you can see this one here is quite well strengthened. I've got these triangles in the corner, which the other one's got, but this has got a mostly solid back with just a bit of a hole here. Obviously, because it's had stereo equipment in, didn't get too hot. The amp used to sit at the top, so most of the heat would be there anyway. So that gave the desk a lot of strength. Whereas if we go back to the other one, which I've shoved back now, so it's in the way. You see, there's just the 2 triangles at the bottom, and it's mostly open, and there's a small boxed-in section at the top. That's been tightly boxed in. This is all fixed, and that used to be for 2. It was designed to accommodate 2 MIDI ATX computer cases next to each other, and that's why all this is open, because you obviously need access for power, peripherals, I/O, and that. These didn't used to get in the way on standard cases. I don't know if they would on some of the deeper cases I've got. Probably would, but generally they weren't a problem. So that's why the desks are the way they are, or the desk ends, supports, whatever you want to call them. Yeah, completely forgot. Well, why would I remember? These have got horrible security screws on those with the 2 prongs, with a sort of basically a flat blade with a chunk out the middle. Interesting, I noticed these stickers. 2002, August, so that's when they were made. So that's 20 years ago. Yeah, it is 20 years ago. It is now August. I'll be dead soon. Another little bit of thought that went into this desk base design, although it was somewhat thought and somewhat just it happened, because I've used, you perhaps see, I've just used battens, so the sides are screwed into the batten, the lower shelf is screwed in that way. It's much stronger like that rather than just screwing directly into these. Obviously I've done that on these side panels, but that creates a lot more strength. But it also means at the front there's a little very narrow, well, I say narrow, not a very short kickboard, but the back I left it open. And this also means you can put, yeah, feel under here, the screws, so the screws going up into this from the underside, which again makes for a lot more strength. But it means you've got somewhere to shove excesses of cable out the way, which is very useful. This wasn't the night that I had planned. Welcome to the shit show. See, I've just realised something. I'm not a round of bread short of a loaf of bread. I'm a loaf of bread short of a loaf of bread. I'm sure I bought a loaf of bread the other day when I went shopping. In the boot of the bloody car. If this is actually any good still, it'll be a miracle. It's probably not. That's been roasting out there for, God, I don't know. Is it even in date still? Seems alright. I usually freeze it, whether it's freezable now, I don't know. Still seems alright though. Make a sandwich with it. At least it wasn't a pint of milk, eh? that would have been a shit show. This water is from the dust out of the room. Well, it's the next day. I did manage to get these extension leads open last night, although this one completely fell apart. So I've got to rebuild that. There doesn't seem to be anything obviously wrong with these. There's a bit of a dark patch on the PCB on these where there's some resistors that probably got pretty warm. And that looks like something that's happened over a long period of time. They're not. There's certainly nothing exploded. Certainly nothing that looks like it's exploded. I thought I'd been in these before. I remember these are a pain to get back together once they fall apart. But there's like a spring-loaded trapdoor that's supposed to cover the power switch, and I think these were failing. So you can perhaps see I just glued these permanently open. They're recessed anyway, so you don't need a cover really. And also the cover makes it very difficult to get at them when they're behind like this, so at least now I can get behind and flick the switch if there's a need. Now I've also opened this other surge protector up. The surge protection looks like it's this bit here, and that looks fine. So there's no problems with these, so it's clearly not the surge protectors that's gone pop. So PC, laptop, the only other thing I could think is the air filter, but that wasn't on, and I'm pretty sure that's mechanically switched. So I don't think it'd be that, but well, we'll see. So I think possibly the PC is going to have to be the next call, which is going to have to be taken to pieces altogether. The room's still an absolute disaster, and it's early. Well, I say early. It's not early. I need to get outside and do a bit outside before it gets too hot today. So I'm going to go do that first. Yeah, I'm not sure if this is right. This is 36, but it was left in the sun. But it was definitely 31 earlier in the shade, so it's probably about 32 now. It's definitely warming up. So this is in the back of the house. The sun's actually hitting the back of the house now, so the temperature will go up a little bit. But I've kept everything shut up. I've put cardboard on the doors on the outside where there's glass. I've got a tarpaulin over one window on the outside. And also I've put tinfoil on some of the windows. I've tried that. As you can see, it's sort of 23.5, 24 degrees in here at the minute. So it's a massive difference to outside. Yeah, so I've had a bit of a shuffle around in here. Still a mess, but I've got one of the extensions back together. I'm just trying to put this thing back together. And this first one I undid, it basically exploded. All the bits have come out of the rails for the power and everything, and these stupid 3-pin spring loaded things, you might be able to see there's a spring in there, and you basically have to get the spring to tension in that and then put that into here. The problem is when you're putting these springs in, they want to push upwards and then spring out the top of this plastic bit, so you've got to get it so that it will stay in first and then you can put it in there. They're a right pain in the arse. Luckily only one's popped out on that, and I can use this to see how these metal pieces that have come out need to go in. So they need to go in here, and then this rail over that, so the plug runs on the rail, not this springy bit. A pain in the arse. Well, got one of these back together. Just trying the plugs in each of the sockets, because these shutters are supposed to open up when you put a plug in, and then when you take the plug out they'll close up like that, to make sure that the live and neutrals have got like a protective thing over them, so you can't shove a screwdriver in. Well, a kid can't, or either a kid or a stupid adult, one of the two. Not much difference really. And one of these was sticking, so I've given it a nudge and then put the plug in and out a few times, and it's fine now. So I think perhaps the spring just wasn't quite in the right position, but they are starting to look a bit worse for wear. This one's got a crack in it. There's a bit of plastic come off at the top there, so I'll probably look at replacing these next time around. I'm not going to this time, but next time I think I might, because they're quite big and clunky. I could probably get some smaller, more basic 6-ways on there without all this extra crap that's not needed. Maybe the plastic's going a bit brittle on these. The irony with these, they've got these little security screws. The irony with these screws is it's easier to get them out than to put them in, which I'm sure is not the intention, but anyway. I've just got this one to do now, but of course, as always, I've lost one of these metal springy things. Always something goes missing, so I've got to find that first. Well, it's just definitely starting to get a bit boring now, but we're getting there. I've got these back on, started to put power plugs and stuff in ready, and then some more network cables I've added as well while I'm at it, because I can get at this and I've needed some more. So unfortunately I've only been able to find some short ones without trawling through a load of boxes, which I don't want to do. It's either that or that great long thing, so soon I'll have less cable. I was going to swap out the power supply for this switch, for because it's a transformer based one, to a little switch mode one, which might have been more efficient. But these are 7.5 volts, and I don't think I've got any switch mode 7.5 volt supplies. And the other switches I've got all seem to be D-links, and they all seem to be 7.5 volts, so couldn't really do anything with that. I've got the neck here, that one would work, that's 12 volts, but I'm not using that, so I've actually took it off so that it's not here for now. And this is the lead to the little hub for the printers for the USB, and what I've done is just tie that up there for now, so that I can actually find it, because it always gets lost down the back here and ends up being a nightmare. So I can just plug an extension into that and then plug it into a PC or a laptop or whatever. So yeah, so I've got a cable here for the PC that sits on top of the desk, which it shouldn't be there really, but that's just where it is for now. I've put a spare one through here and a power cable, so I can run a PC in here if I want to. So I've got a little low power one I might set up under there. Power for PC, monitor, what else have we got here? I don't know, lots of stuff. These are for the extensions that go to the underside of the shelves. That's the extension, the new one down there, which has got the switches for using at the front of the desk. This one goes over to the back of here. So I've got a stereo amplifier. This will be for monitor number 3, this power lead, and then there's going to be the laptop power supply in here. And I think that's about it for this side. And Ethernet cable for the laptop docking station as well. So I've also got the air filter to plug in here, so that's why I've left a couple of sockets free on this side, so I can get round and there, and that's the same this side. I'll leave them at the ends and use the ones from the middle out, that way you can get at these from the side. it's the same with this as well. So that's the laptop one, and then there's just three there, so it's easier to get from the side. Dust. You can see lines where the tower cases have been stacked in here. That's crazy. I've been sneezing loads today. I think it's because of the dust from here, from yesterday and today, and also because I've been in the garden chopping lots of bushes and stuff. I always find the leaves are really dusty, and that always sets me off. Bit of a nightmare. You can see the switch again at the back there. So I've maxed that out with cables, so hopefully we've got enough spares for various bits and pieces for a while. And the power strips here now, I've had to alter the way that was, but that will just sit here, so I can plug stuff in for charging and drives and that. And well, this part of the room that way is a complete mess. Okay, we've got cables where we need them, mostly. I have run the audio cable here, so I'm going to have to do something with that, but I can do that later. Just some little clips along that rail will do. I've got this monstrosity here, stand thing, so the idea of that is it goes under here, the cables run under it. So these bases normally sit right up to the edges of this, so these need moving slightly. I'll probably move this left one. In fact, I can feel here the carpet's flat there, so this base is too far that way, but that's fine. It makes it easier to put this in. And then the air filter unit I've got will sit onto the top of this, and of course I've then got a bit of access to these sockets down the back here to plug that in. So it's amazing how much time these jobs take. There we go. That's perhaps a little bit too far, but yeah, I'll leave a bit of a gap for that. Yeah, so that's the idea under the desk. So as I say, this used to be, the idea was 2 tower cases there and a stereo separate stack. I used to live there, and then this was just kind of left over a bit of space. So at the moment I've obviously, things have changed. I've just got an amp, and I don't really use this much, and I've not got any speakers set up. I use it for the headphones most of the time, which is a bit overkill really. I didn't really have the space for speakers, but maybe I'll be able to get them set up on here again now. The worst of all this is, I've done all this and I still haven't figured out what that popping sound was. Well, this is future editor me here, wondering what the hell I've created. And this has just gone on a bit too long, so I'm going to have to split this one up. So I think we're about somewhere around here at the minute. So I'm going to shove this ending in here. But then we've got all this crap to waffle on about as well, so I think that's going to have to be a part 2. So we'll call it a day for now, and we'll come back to this one.